Well, hey there, guys. I'm Max the Beast, and this is the Curiosity Shot, the ZeldaLegend.net video mailbag where I answer your Zelda questions. Forgive me, my hair's a little crazy, but our first question comes from Pablo de los Santos, and he asks, which Zelda game did you think has the best items? Oddly enough, I'd probably pick Twilight Princess, and I know that's out of character for me, or, no, not really, but, I make it sound like it is. But, I really thought that, I have friends that think that the Zelda games are better off with having, like, small numbers of items, like Majora's Mask or the original Zelda. And, I can see logic behind that, but I actually, frankly, like a lot of items, and I thought there was an incredible abundance of items and options in Twilight Princess. I mean, you had all the different kinds of bombs, you had the optional items like the Hawkeye, you had the cool little lantern, the bottles and resources and stuff, and you had creative dungeon items like the ball and chain or the spinner, and great spins on old items like, well, the bomb arrows, although that wasn't brand new, but, and the Gale Boomerang. I just thought they were great items, and I thought it was a very creative usage of them. I love Twilight Princess's selection of items. I mean, I liked them in other games too, but that'd probably be my favorite. What about you guys, though? Tell me in the comments. Welcome Home asks, in your last mailbag you talked about seeing the origins of the Deku tree and Jabu-Jabu and Skyward Sword, and you also said that the Gorons didn't have anything of the like. What about the big dead Dodongo in Dodongo's Cavern in Ocarina of Time, or is that just a large rock structure? Well, it seems like a rock structure, but they talk about it like it's a real Dodongo. That's an interesting point. It's a good theory. The one thing is that the Deku tree, I mean, the Goron's ruby was owned by, well, it was like hung up in the Goron City, and it was owned by Darunia when you actually got to it. So it wasn't like it was actually kept by the deity thingy. The Deku tree owns Zora of the Kokiri's emerald, and the well, I guess Jabu-Jabu didn't have Zora's sapphire. I think Ruto kept that, but she still was his attendant, and it wasn't like it had any connection to that big Dodongo. And we don't know anything about the big Dodongo, so while it's cool, it's kind of a fanfiction-y theory. There's nothing backing it, Not to shoot it down, but that's, yeah. Dodongo Bomber, interesting coincidence, asks, I started replaying the Wind Waker the other day when I remembered that they called Ganondorf by the name Ganon. Since his beast form is called Ganon and his human form is Ganondorf, then why did they call him Ganon when he is human in the Wind Waker? Yeah, the term's original... Basically, he was always Ganon. That was his name. And then, basically, they made the human version, it was basically his backstory, why he became Ganon. And he was Ganondorf, and he was this humanoid guy. And then, I think, really, they used it like it was the beast form is Ganon, and the human form is Ganondorf, but really they're the same person, and Ganon's really just a shortened version of Ganondorf. Really, it's just, their names, different names for the same guy. Ganon is the shortened version, maybe, and sometimes they just decide to just call the beast form Ganon. It's used both ways. It's a nickname, it's his beast form, it's both at the same time. It's a odd little mess, but that's basically all I can say on it. Brad H. asks, hey, do you need a 3DS to play the new Ocarina of Time remake? Yes. You need a 3DS to play Ocarina of Time 3DS. Dr. Seaweed asks, why did Link have pink hair in A Link to the Past? Well, actually, that was only in the in-game graphics. In the artwork, he had brown hair. So, actually, the reason he had pink hair was probably just like a palette issue, like they had to, that was the only color they had available or something. Or, actually, more likely, in my opinion, there was probably a likelihood that brown didn't actually look that great on the sprite. It didn't even stand out, perhaps. I mean, I'm not sure, but that's one idea. And they actually had to do something that stood out more, and pink probably stood out more. I don't know, but his hair is brown in canon. It's just the in-game graphic that's weird. There's probably a reason for it. Komali asks, in Ocarina of Time, is Morpha the one causing Zora's domain to be frozen? If so, why won't the ice melt when Morpha is defeated? I believe, yes, it is Morpha. I'm pretty sure they state it directly. I guess you can't quote me on that, but I'm pretty certain. And, well, as for why it hasn't unfrozen, think about it. Take a block of ice. Put it out anywhere. See how fast it takes to melt. Actually, just even put it in the sun. It'll take hours, probably. Or at least a while. Now, imagine how much frozen Zora's domain is. Yeah. It would take a long time to unfreeze. And realistically, the adventure of Link? Whoops, accidental reference. The adventure in the game really doesn't take that long. It probably at most takes 24 hours, a couple of days. I mean, I know the day-night thing passes, but okay, a couple of days, but still with that, a couple weeks or whatever, that's still a massive amount of ice. It would take forever to melt. Raichu asks, I've always wondered, in Ocarina of Time, they don't clarify why Kakariko Village was on fire, and what exactly came out of the well. Can you tell me? If you don't know, do you think it had anything to do with the Dark Link from the manga? As far as I know, the village was just on fire because it was either attacked or because of the creature coming out of the well. Technically, he might have been unsealed just then, so maybe it was because of an attack. I don't really know. It's had something to do with the peril in Kakariko at the time. I think that's all that's really important. It's not like a major detail. Something bad happened there, and it was really what was going on. As for what came out of the well, that was the shadow spirit that was sealed in the well a long time ago by Impa, I think, was specified. I'm not sure on that one, though. And, actually, yeah, I don't think they state that at all. Never mind. And that shadow spirit is Bongo Bongo, the boss of the Shadow Temple. And Impa was trying to reseal it. That's why she was there. And, as for what Bongo Bongo is, some people believe he was a Sheikah who lived in the village back in the time when it was only Sheikah. The guy referenced as being the person who owned the Lens of Truth before when there was a house where the well stood. People have theorized that. He looks like a person who was executed. I'm pretty sure he's undead somehow, because he looks like a person who was executed. That's about all I can say. But that answers your question, at least. Hylian09 asks, I know that the Twilight is some kind of dark substance, but I'm still really confused on what it actually is. Did Zant or the creatures of the Twilight create it, and how does it change people, like Link into a wolf or others into spirits? Is it some form of anti-light or, like, evil or something? Well, it's not evil. What basically it is it's like... I guess I can't give you a very direct answer, but I can give you my best. Basically, they described it as the world of Hyrule, or the world Hyrule's in, is a world of light. So, if you're considering that our world is a world of light, it is light at its core. That's the trait, the element that really makes up what our world is. What would a reverse world of shadow be? It would by nature be physically and or energy-wise, extra-dimensionally, whatever you want to talk about. It would be different in base nature from our world. It would be based on a completely different nature. The same laws wouldn't apply. I mean, when you go there, it's a completely alien place. And, no, it's not evil because they've talked about it being, the people there are good and stuff. But point is that it's a different world, and they've made it clear that the two elements or traits can't mix. They're not meant to be part of the same thing. That's why there's so much weird stuff going on when they combine. And that's what Zant was up to, what Ganondorf was up to. Ganondorf wanted to create light and shadow to create darkness. I don't know what that means, but yeah, basically, that is the best answer I can give you. Juggernaut Soda asks, we all know the Happy Mask Salesman is the same in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, but what about the Happy Mask Salesman in Oracle of Ages? I've always been wondering about it. Well, really, I'm not sure there's a lot of connection, because it's the same character, but at the same time, it doesn't have any relevance. I think it's really just one of those cases of them reusing the character, but not reusing... It's not the same person, but it's the same character. It's a different person. It's not like he lived that long or he just moved there or whatever. It's a different person. It's a different story, but it's the same character design and character traits borrowed over from another game. It's reusing ideas. Kamoris Tane, I don't know how to pronounce that, asks, Shigeru Miyamoto said that Twilight Princess is without a doubt the last Zelda game as you know it in its present form. What did he mean? I believe that's one of the quotes he said about Skyward Sword. It was kind of talking about Skyward Sword before they announced it. And he was talking about, like, they're going to totally change the next Zelda game. And he basically went back on his word and said it's not going to be terribly different. I mean, of course there's going to be new ideas and innovations. We've seen them. But it's not going to be a crazy new thing. It's not going to reinvent Zelda. So basically, he meant something and went back on it. That crazy Miyamoto. Sydney the Cat asks, since Skyloft is above Hyrule and the islands in Wind Waker are also above Hyrule, does that mean the islands are Skyloft? No, Skyloft are floating islands, as far as they've told us, that are actually used to be part of Hyrule, and there's something separated them. in the Wind Waker, Hyrule just got flooded. The islands are actually just the mountaintops from the mountains in Hyrule. The only thing separating them is water. They're not separated from Hyrule. They're still connected. The temples are actually down in Hyrule, the Earth and Wind temples. You just have entrances from the top of the islands, the mountains. Andrew Pasia asks, I've noticed in the Zelda series that among the various races, neither side of light or dark ever intentionally strays on the opposing side, or anywhere in between. For most of the Zelda games, the races stay strictly good, and the bad races stay mostly bad or evil, exceptions being Gerudo women. I have not played too many Zelda games, so what are your thoughts or concerns on this as a hardcore Zelda fan? I personally think mixing up the strict morality of the races could enrich future Zelda games. I do agree with you that mixing up could be interesting, and I totally support that. The one thing is that the way it is actually sort of realistic. Not to say that like all races are good or bad, I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the fact that this is, Zelda is essentially medieval times or medieval style. Most of the time in medieval times, entire races were united under, the same country, the same ruler. So if that ruler was good or bad, pretty much the allegiance of the race as far as political stuff goes, maybe not individuals, like rebels or whatever, but, individuals, not individuals, the entire country in general would be aligned on the side of their leader, and that would be either, well, usually would be pretty gray, but in this case we're talking about a story of good versus evil, so, yeah, I think you're getting what I'm saying. But, I definitely think mixing it could have benefit. I think that a little bit more deepness to the plot, like how in Majora's Mask there was the big villain, but then you had characters like the Gorman brothers or Sakon who are actually, bad. That was interesting, and I think it could benefit from that. Vancor asks, I don't get how the timeline works if Ganon/Ganondorf dies. How can he die more than once? He dies in Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and possibly the first Legend of Zelda because it's considered a direct prequel to Zelda 2, where Ganon is dead. However, Ganondorf was considered to be dead in Ocarina of Time, but it was explained in Twilight Princess that he merely was banished to the Twilight Realm. Any insight? Well, I'm not the biggest expert on the timeline. One important thing to remember is there are games where he's outright revived from death. The Oracle games, he's revived from death, although the ritual was incomplete and he was a psycho monster. And they're talking about reviving him in Zelda 2. That's the whole point. They need Link's blood, I think. I think that's the point. And in Twilight Princess, it's basically it's an alternate timeline from like what happened at the end of Ocarina of Time. In Ocarina of Time, he was sealed. He wasn't dead, actually. That explains the Wind Waker. And on the like the bottom timeline, he was actually on the child timeline. He was actually stopped before he came to power and sealed to the Twilight Realm instead of his defeat at the end of Ocarina of Time in the adult timeline. And that's why Twilight Princess works. But then again, he can be revived, so it doesn't matter either way. Alright, that's it for this time, guys. Be sure to send your questions to the email address in the description, and later.